But The Keen and I wasn't the only time the VHS openings for Warner Brothers animated movies were interesting. Now back in '92, they made a movie for Tiny Toons called How I Spent My Vacation, and on the VHS they had a commercial for Tiny Toons fruit snacks. That's right, they had a commercial for a product that doesn't exist anymore. That doesn't date it whatsoever. Though that's not the only time they had a commercial for a product that doesn't exist anymore on their VHSs. On the Pokemon First Movie VHS and Space Jam VHS, they had a commercial for Kids WB.
The following may cause uncontrollable reflex movements of legs and feet. Kids WB does not assume responsibility for overturned beds or footprints on ceilings.
Again, that doesn't make it dated at all. Though, then again, nobody actually watches VHSs anymore. They don't even produce them anymore. Getting back to the fruit snacks commercial, I have to say this commercial's okay. I mean, I don't know what the plot of Buster and his friends having to clean up their mess so his parents don't get in trouble with him has to do with fruit snacks, but otherwise the commercial's alright. Though if there's one thing I find odd about this commercial, it's why is Montana Max hanging out at Buster's? You were really trying to force in all the characters from the show into that commercial, weren't you? Now, in his Disney merchandise video, Liam said that he thinks that Disney really isn't the most greedy studio in the world, and one thing that shows this is their VHS openings, because, unlike a lot of other studios at the time, they didn't usually have commercials for other people's products that had nothing to do with them, except, well, they paid them. I agree with him, and I find this to be especially true if you compare it with Warner Brothers' VHS openings. I mean, okay. Having a Cartoon Network commercial on the Swan Princess and Cats Don't Dance VHS? Fine. Having a Tweety and Sylvester picture frame commercial, Keen and I computer game commercial, and soundtrack commercial on the Keen and I VHS? Okay. But having a Pillsbury commercial and a message from Kindervision on the Swan Princess VHS? Having a Princess Cruise commercial on the Swan Princess 2 VHS? Having a UNICEF commercial on the Quest for Camelot VHS? Having a Chevy commercial on the Iron Giant VHS? That's a little greedy, don't you think? In fact, now that I think about it, the VHS opening for the Swan Princess was more like a commercial break than a VHS opening. Don't believe me? Let's look and see what's on the VHS opening. First, there's a Stay Tuned bumper saying that after the movie, there will be a Kindervision commercial and music video, then there's a Cartoon Network commercial, and then there's a Pillsbury commercial, plus there's that Kindervision commercial. I guess they had no movies to promote then? Although I have to wonder, what company would want to associate themselves with a box office bomb like the Swan Princess? Same thing goes for Quest for Camelot, the Iron Giant, and the Swan Princess 2. Though, speaking of the Swan Princess 2's VHS, I like how they shot the Princess cruise ship itself. Doug Waka would love this commercial.
Number 6. Overusing the wide-angle lens.
Plus, I like how on the Cats Don't Dance VHS, even Johnny Bravo can't believe that Cow and Chicken is a real show.
A Spanish-speaking bovine cow and her clucking brother chicken. Whatever.
You know your show is weird when a character on the same channel can't believe it exists. And he's a cartoon. Now I have to point out that on the Swan Princess VHS, they, not kidding here, before they played the music video for Eternity's Dreams Come True, they described them as one of the world's most popular groups.
What you're about to see is Eternity, a new music video from one of the world's most popular musical groups, Dreams Come True, premiering exclusively on this Swan Princess video.
Maybe in their own country they were one of the world's most popular groups. Now in the UK, the Swan Princess also had a very interesting VHS opening because, at the end of the VHS, they had a making of featurette, yet when they warned people with a Stay Tuned bumper, they just said it was a making of featurette, and they did not say what it was a making of for what. Couldn't she be a little more clear, guys? No? But The Swan Princess wasn't the only movie made by this studio, or distributed by this studio, that had an interesting VHS opening. Quest for Camelot also had a very interesting VHS opening because on the VHS opening they had a trailer for Air Bud.
Dog who needed a home. A boy who needed a friend.
Hey, boy. Good boy.
And the game that brought them together.
Now, while it is true that in the UK, Air Bud was actually distributed by Warner Brothers, not Disney, they still kept the Disney logos. The last VHS opening I want to talk about from the UK is, well, on the Batman Forever VHS, they had a trailer for Thumbelina. Weird. But on the trailer for Thumbelina, I noticed they had the same guy doing the narration who did the narration for the TV spot I talked about earlier.
Once upon a time, in a land far, far away,
she's a funny little squirt.
a very small girl, no bigger than a thumb.
The critics agree. Thumbelina's exciting. Parents will be cheering.
Okay, what about that guy screams fairy tale movie to them? Seriously, he should be doing the narration for action movies, not fairy tale movies. He should be doing the narration for Batman Forever. Now, back to the Swan Princess, I noticed that it can't seem to find a distributor when it comes to the home video market. What do I mean? Well, you see, back when it went to theaters, it was distributed by New Line Cinema, but when it went to video, it was distributed by Turner Home Entertainment. But when it went to DVD, Warner Brothers sold the rights to Columbia Pictures. And when it came to The Swan Princess 2, it was just distributed by Warner Brothers when it went to theaters and VHS, but when it went to DVD, again, the rights were sold to Columbia Pictures, and when The Swan Princess 3 went to VHS and DVD, it was just sold by Columbia Pictures. Seriously, they must be really embarrassed by this franchise considering they keep changing the distributor to the point where they sell the entire franchise to another studio. Speaking of The Swan Princess's DVD, I noticed the male lead looks absolutely nothing like he does in the movie. It's like they couldn't bother to watch the goddamn movie. But The Swan Princess wasn't the only Disney ripoff they put their name on to be sold to another studio. Both Thumbelina and A Troll in Central Park, both Don Bluth movies I might add, ended up being sold to 20th Century Fox. Then again, I can't help but see why. Now that we've talked about their merchandise for their desperate Disney ripoffs and their VHSs, let's look at their merchandise for movies that did not come off as desperate Disney ripoffs. First, let's look at their campaign for the Iron Giant. For the Iron Giant, they had these bizarre commercials where giant kids were running around a city. Seriously, who was in charge of marketing at the time?
Oh my god, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life!
Makes sense. What? Look, if you're going to host this show instead of me, then don't steal my jokes. Okay, seriously, don't get so offended. But that wasn't the only time their trailers for animated movies fell flat. For their trailer for Cats Don't Dance, they, instead of giving us the plot, just listed off random characters without giving us any indication as to what they're like and said what the selling point of the movie was supposed to be.
So join Danny.
I guess we're gonna be the only two cats on the ark, huh?
Sawyer.
So much for preserving the species.
Tilly.
I hear hippos are very, very big on Broadway.
They're big everywhere, darling.
Wooly. And Pudge. With new songs by Grammy Award winners Randy Newman and Natalie Cole. Nothing's gonna stop audiences everywhere from enjoying a brand new world of animated fun, excitement, and adventure.
I wouldn't mind so much if this were a TV spot, but this is the official trailer of the movie. Not to mention, how can you just give us random characters without telling us anything about what they're like? I mean, how is that supposed to sell the movie to me? I mean, come on, how would you like it if they sold a movie like this? This movie stars that guy, Zeitgeist, coming soon. Seriously, if you're going to sell a movie based on its characters, then let us get to know a little about its characters. In fact, the Simpsons movie did the same thing, because in their trailers, they sold it more on its characters than its plot.
20th Century Fox presents Homer.
More, please.
Marge.
Lisa, Bart, Maggie, Mr. Burns, Smithers, Krusty, Barney, Lenny, Carl, Itchy, Mo. What? Grandpa, Apu, Wiggum, Milhouse, Nelson, Ralph, Selma, Patty, Bumblebee Man, Willie, Jimbo, Skinner, Otto, Rockman, Reverend Lovejoy.
But it worked there because we already knew who these characters were, so if we liked them, we would want to see the movie. It doesn't work here because, seeing as the movie wasn't out yet, we didn't know these characters, so why should we care? Speaking of its advertising, Media Hunter and some other people told me this movie didn't have much advertising at all.
Of course it didn't do well in the box office, in which it only made like $3 million out of a possible $80 million. But it's not because it was bad, oh no, but rather it didn't get enough attention. You kids say this film was a random film put into theaters to fill in the extra slot, and they'd hope people would just see it. I mean, who would see a random film like that?
Talk about cheap. Now, let's talk about Space Jam's marketing. Now, what can I say about a movie that's pretty much a 90-minute commercial to begin with? Well, is it me, or did way too many singers contribute to the soundtrack? I mean, usually 1 to 2 or 3 people put film clips from the movie into their music video, but Space Jam? It had 4 people put the movie in their music video.
But now I know the meaning of true love. I wanna fly. Oh yeah. I will move that mountain for you.
That's a little much, don't you think? Couldn't they stick with 3? No? Anyway, I would talk about whether or not I like these music videos, but I'll let Liam cover them on cinematic soundtracks. Now, this isn't the only interesting piece of Space Jam advertising I could find. There's also a McDonald's commercial they made, before they went back to promoting Disney movies. They promoted Warner Brothers movies. Ironic. Anyway, in this commercial, Michael Jordan films Space Jam with the Looney Tunes as if they're real people. Then this little kid comes up to him and asks him for an autograph. What I have to wonder is, how did that kid get into the studio? Is he one of the crew members' kids? Also, what's the point of calling the burger they're advertising the grown-up burger?
Now at McDonald's, try our deluxe sandwiches with the grown-up taste.
What's the point? Another fast food commercial for, well, movies that were distributed by Warner Brothers that were animated that I found interesting was this one for Pokemon the Movie 2000. Back when the Pokemon movies were in theaters, they were promoted at Burger King, and in this commercial, Ash decides to park one of his Pokemon on the roof and realizes that was a big mistake. Now, while I realize it was supposed to be a stupid decision, I still have to wonder what was going through his head when he did that. Also, I found the way that the Pokemon destroyed the roof to be pretty interesting.
Maybe we should have used the door.
So he lightly hits it with his tail and he destroys the roof? Really? But you know, those are just nitpicks. What makes this commercial really bad is this kid's reaction to the whole thing.
Cool toy.
Oh, there's a Pokemon on the roof and he destroyed half the roof? Oh well. This toy though? This toy is interesting. Now, the last fast food advertising I want to talk about is the Keenan Eyes. To promote the Keenan Eye, Subway sold Keenan Eye Kids Meals toys. Never thought you'd hear that sentence, huh? Now, one of the characters they made a toy on was Master Little. Why is this interesting? This is Master Little.
Homework? Pub quizzes? Those little pink slips they give you when you're tardy? I hate those!
Yes, they made a toy based off of a nation stereotype. Awkward. Now let's talk about why most of these movies failed at the box office. Why do I think this happened besides, well, most people didn't find a lot of these movies to be very good? I think it had to do with either timing or marketing. You see, during the time these movies came out, there were other movies out there that were way more popular, and as a result, people went to see them instead and ignored those movies. For example, The Iron Giant went up against both Runaway Bride and The Blair Witch Project. However, I also have to think it has to do with marketing because some of them were hardly marketed. For example, Cats Don't Dance in the Canaanite. While the movies it was up against didn't help its box office,